Welcome back. Financial technology, often shortened to FinTech, is an emerging industry that uses technology to improve financial activities. The use of smartphones for mobile banking, investing services, and cryptocurrency are examples of technologies aiming to make financial services more accessible to the public. So how popular is the industry in our kingdom? And what do you know about it? Here to answer our questions is Khalid Saad, CEO of Bahrain FinTech Bay. We're happy to have you here, mister. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well and I'm delighted to be with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. We are delighted to have you as well. Sir, so as CEO of Bahrain FinTech, how did it all start?
I actually started my previous role within the Bahrain Economic Development Board, and the idea of FinTech Bay was first conceptualized at the end of January 2017 when there was a wider national vision regarding creating and developing the FinTech ecosystem further in this country. And so I was fortunate enough at that time to have been part of the team that was actually looking at exploring the project of developing a FinTech hub within the Kingdom of Bahrain.
Right.
And obviously, as the year passed by and the concept firmed up and got eventually signed off by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Bahrain, I got involved more and more within that project. After a while, I decided that this was an opportunity not to be missed, and I decided personally to do it full time. So I moved from the Bahrain EDB, which I've spent 8 lovely and fruitful years there, to running FinTech Bay. I'm actually sitting right next to the Economic Development Board because Bahrain FinTech Bay is right next to the EDB in the RCAP.
So you see your colleagues every now and then?
So I see my colleagues pretty much more or less every day. But that's how the process started, and obviously I officially took on this role in January 2018, and I've been in this role officially for nearly 2 years. But the whole project was initially conceptualized nearly 3 years ago.
So can you tell us more about the fintech industry here in Bahrain?
Yes. The fintech industry has, in my opinion, grown tremendously within the Kingdom of Bahrain over the last few years. I think historically, if you look at Bahrain, it's been a financial hub since the 70s. This year we celebrate 100 years of banking. Today, Standard Chartered, obviously with us here for 100 years. So there's a long legacy and track record of financial services. Obviously, with the changes that are happening globally in financial technology or fintech, post the global financial crisis 2008, there was a need to really develop this industry further and to put a firm plan in place. And so over the last 3 years, a lot of work has happened at an ecosystem level from a regulatory front, from an institutional adoption front, and from an awareness perspective. And so what we've managed to do was, through the Central Bank of Bahrain, put in place what is now the most robust and comprehensive fintech regulatory framework in the MENA region.
Wow.
And we've got some of the best fintech regulations. For example, if you look at areas such as crypto assets, or also known as cryptocurrencies globally.
Right.
And so what that has resulted in was an increase in the number of fintechs to over 80 now. My personal estimate is that we're going to hit around 100 by the end of the year. And this is probably a 300% increase over what it was a few years ago. And so fintech has really developed. And I think importantly, probably the message to put out is that this is necessary because financial services is 17% of our GDP.
Right.
It's the second largest contributor to the economy, the largest non-oil and gas sector, and so we need to future-proof it.
Definitely.
And we need to position it to where we want it to be in the future.
I bet. Yes. So, which sector would you say is more involved in the fintech industry? Is it the public sector or the private sector, and how?
I think you'd see a bit of both, actually. And people think, obviously, the name given is called fintech or financial technology, that the applications or the technology can only be used within the financial services sector. But I think it's a very wide term where you see its applications and technology being deployed both in the public and private sectors, and not necessarily only constrained to financial services. Now, if you look at it from a public perspective, the country has put in place a cloud-first policy.
Right.
And so
AWS, right?
AWS is part of that. There's
a
a wider initiative by the government to move a lot of the infrastructure to the cloud, because
Correct.
That will give you, obviously, the scalability, security, and obviously will help you move more towards an innovation and digitally driven economy. And so it's been done through a mixture of Azure and AWS, actually.
Right.
But obviously with AWS putting their data centers for the region in Bahrain, that's a massive development. Also on the public side of things, for example, just within the last day, the Coast Guard announced that they will be deploying advanced artificial intelligence to help also secure Bahrain's borders.
Wow.
And the Ministry of Interior, via the Traffic Directorate, is also looking at putting the vehicle registration process on the blockchain. So from a public perspective, there's been a lot of progress. On the private side of things, a lot of financial institutions have now started to invest heavily in fintech-related technologies. We've seen the launch of digital banks, or what are also known as neobanks.
Neobanks.
We've seen applications of artificial intelligence, and obviously now with Bahrain embarking on open banking, the first in the region and one of few countries globally, we will see that there is going to be wider adoption of fintech, where traditional institutions will move to become platform-like moving on in the future.
Right.
Just to finally wrap that up, we've seen as a result of the action on the government or the public and the private sector side, there are more entrepreneurs, innovators, and fintechs that are setting up in Bahrain, either locally or coming from the region or internationally. And they're bringing in some very new ideas, which the public and private sectors are now receptive to working and collaborating with and adopting.
Amazing. What are Bahrain FinTech Bay proudest achievements?
I think we've launched at the end of February last year. There are quite a few achievements which we're proud of. I think one is we've hosted His Royal Highness the Crown Prince in Bahrain to FinTech Bay, and obviously to showcase what FinTech Bay means to the ecosystem and how is it working with the other key stakeholders in the ecosystem. We've also had the pleasure to host His Royal Highness the Crown Prince of Jordan, amongst many other dignitaries. I think the other thing which we're really proud of was the launch with Temkeen of the National FinTech Talent Program, which aims to take 50 Bahrainis, either fresh graduates or up to 2 years looking for experience, create meaningful internships in FinTech innovation, digitalization for them, train them.
Impressive.
And then also place them internationally, either in Singapore or the United States, and with the aim of creating full-time employment, hopefully for them, or encouraging them to start their own fintechs. And to date, we've just started the second cohort. Around 20 people actually were employed full-time. So that's a great achievement. I think
20 out of how many?
20 out of 25 in the first cohort, and we're looking at hopefully more in the second cohort. I think just to probably wrap things up, we've been recognized by S&P Global Ratings as one of the 2 most advanced fintech ecosystems in the MENA region, and there are a whole other series of I think accomplishments, but these are some of the accomplishments.
Impressive. That's very impressive. And I believe you have some upcoming event by the end of the month.
We're actually hosting the second edition, for us at least, in FinTech Bay of Startup Weekend. We're doing this in strategic partnership with the National Bank of Bahrain, and the idea is that it's a 54-hour hackathon, where this time we wanted to be focused on fintech.
Right.
Last year we hosted a general hackathon, which started on Thursday afternoon and finished on Saturday night, and it resulted in 15 startups being created.
Wow.
And so this year we're actually focused on fintech. We're also hosting along the sidelines of BIPEX, the first property technology hackathon. And our next major event would be an open banking event at the end of February next year. And that's a very big theme that is fundamentally changing the way financial services are being conducted.
Amazing. Well, I believe that's it for the day. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate having you here, and it was a pleasure. You were very informative.
The pleasure is all mine. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to coming on show at some point in the future. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir.